book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about some independently published authors that are on my TBR. Actually, now that I think about it, it's really hot. I'm gonna take my coat off. If you guys didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out and you can participate in a topic in the future. I'm such a mess because I just came back from a nail appointment. Please tell me how pretty they are. I wanted to do this topic for a very long time because I find it so interesting. My algorithm, every single time I online bookshop, which I have been doing, or I had been doing a lot during the time where we all went into lockdown. My online algorithm would always recommend me some independently published authors. Still is recommending me some independently published authors based on the fact that I love fantasy and romance books. I was thinking to myself, well, I'm running out of things to read, and I'm actually not really running out of things to read. It's just, especially when you want to read things that are not really popular in publishing, going to independently published authors or going to online bookstores where independently published books are sold is actually a great idea when you have absolutely no idea what you're in the mood for. There are books out there that are not being promoted as much as the very popular ones, and I get it. I have been promoting very popular ones like Sarah J Maas books and Cassandra Clare books and Veronica Roth books, but the bottom line is there are still some authors that I want to explore and try out. I usually am more inclined to pick up an independently published author if their books are also available on audiobooks, so that I want to multitask and read a traditionally published book while also giving an independently published book a chance. I can do that, not at the exact same time, but I can fit it into my schedule. So if you happen to recommend me an independently published author, let me know if they also have an audiobook that I can check out. Sometimes they don't even have printed books. Sometimes they have ebooks and audiobooks. Essentially, that is up to the author. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to be sharing some of those independently published authors that I do have on my TBR. I'm pretty sure this one made a little bit of buzz on BookTube last year, The Raven and the Dove by Caitlin Davis. I was actually looking at Caitlin Davis's books before this one was even published. This cover though is just absolutely stunning, and I'm pretty sure some of you guys have seen this as well, but if you have the hardback, the image is underneath the dust jacket and it is absolutely gorgeous. So I have this one and The Hunter and the Mage on my TBR. I'm really excited to get to this one because this one is also kind of a reimagining. Once I saw the cover, I was like, oh my goodness, I have to get it. But then also I hear really good things about it as well. This was essentially a cover buy. That being said, I was looking into the Ignite series by Caitlin Davis as well. That also seemed intriguing to me. I actually started Ignite, but I did not continue with it. The reason why I did not continue with it, I think, was because I actually firstly listened to it on audiobook and Scribd cut me off. Not cool, Scribd. Since then, I've unsubscribed to Scribd, which is great, and I'm subscribed to Audible, and I actually buy my audiobooks like individually now. I prefer to keep my audiobooks rather than use Scribd. That's my personal opinion. But yes, long story short, I think Caitlin Davis was one of the first independently published authors that I came across when I was starting to bookshop online during lockdown period. I bought this one and I don't regret it. Looks good and I'm really excited to read the story. I get recommended this book a lot on my Bookstagram, and I get recommended this author a lot on Bookstagram based on what I read. Also first saw it when I was online bookshopping. Red Winter, or the Red Winter series by Annette Marie. I've been seeing Annette Marie pretty much everywhere on my algorithm. The cover was really striking to me. I get recommended it actively at the moment, and I barely know anything about it, but what I do know is that I do want to binge read this trilogy at some point because I hear great things about Annette Marie's writing. She has another series at the moment. I think she just came out with a new book. I'm pretty sure that's a longer series. Everybody who has read Annette Marie is an absolute fan of it. I want to give Annette Marie's books a try, but the current only physical books that I own from her are the Red Winter trilogy. So I do want to try this out and see if I do want to continue on with the rest of her books. I'm pretty sure this is going to make a lot of people excited. This has been getting a lot of buzz as of recently, for good and bad reasons. Funny because I have book reviewers I trust who do not like the Bargainer trilogy, and I also have book reviewers that I also trust and share opinions with that like the series, and I don't know, I think I'm just going to go into it as a complete guilty pleasure series. So yeah, this is the Bargainer. I know nothing about this trilogy. What I do know is that it was cheaper to get this bind up anyway. I'm actually not a big fan of the covers. That being said, I hear great things about it. So I didn't judge the book by its cover this time. I actually just bit the bullet and got it. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people talk about this one, but this one doesn't really fall under the new adult paranormal romance kind of ones. It's a fantasy, but it's more like adult rather than new adult. Savors Champion by Jenna Moresi. It's funny because back when Camilo and I were living back at my parents' place, whenever we had the living room, we would just start watching YouTube together in there, and we would watch Jenna Moresi's videos on writing. And it was fascinating for him to hear from her perspective as well as me. Camilo does want to continue on writing, whereas with me, it's more like I have a story idea. I just don't know if I'm ever gonna write it down. I like to get inspiration from Jenna. We really enjoyed watching her videos. I have this first book. I don't have the Savior Sister yet, but I do want to check it out. I have heard mixed things, but what I do know is that I like fantasy and I want to give it a shot. I am a supporter of Jenna Moresi's videos, so I do want to give it a shot and see how it goes based on the writing advice she's given. And pretty much I will pick up anything by Danielle L. Jensen. Now, Danielle L. Jensen is not only a independently published author, she's also a traditionally published author. I'm pretty sure Dark Shores, that's the only series I have not read from her yet. That's a traditionally published series. Soul and Songbird, the Malediction trilogy, is my favorite series from her, and it is also an independently published series. So is the Bridge Kingdom series as well, which I only recently read. I didn't love it as much as I loved the Malediction trilogy. The Malediction trilogy will always have a special place in my heart. The Bridge Kingdom series is still continuing. We'll see if it ever reaches my thoughts and feelings on this series right here, because oh my goodness, like I love this series. I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out yet, especially if you like fantasy romance or just like really good world building. This series, really good. But yeah, I will essentially read anything from her. I do need to check out her traditionally published series because I feel like I'm missing out. At the moment, I am interested in anything by Audrey Gray, even though she doesn't necessarily count as one of my favorite authors yet, is because every single one of her premises intrigue me. This right here, Oath Taker, has kind of been pitched as a version of Throne of Glass, except Haven, the main character, is essentially more of a female version of Kale, which is a really cool concept, to be honest. Evermore Academy. This one is more of a new adult series that has to do with, I think, a boarding school, and I'm not too sure if the protagonist is human or not. That's in this like paranormal academy. It's giving me like Vampire Academy / Crave vibes, but also Crescent City vibes in a way. It's kind of pitched similar to that, and also I really love the cover of this one. And then with Shadowfall, which I've read. I've actually read Oath Taker and Shadowfall. I have not continued on with the series, and I think it's because I want to reread the first books, and I actually want to binge read the series to get the full experience. With Shadowfall, it's a very fascinating take on the dystopian genre, and I really enjoyed it when I first read it, and I decided, because I had to read so much at the time that I read it, that I want to go back and reread it, then continue on with the rest of the series and absolutely just binge read it. That's actually essentially what I'm planning to do with Audrey Gray's books. I just want to completely immerse myself in these worlds and binge read them. I feel like every single one of her concepts are very fascinating and very interesting, and they all get me. And this one looks like a paranormal fun time. And that, my friends, is the Flirting with Monsters series by Eva Chase. Now, I purely picked this series up because I thought to myself, there's gonna be a time where I'm going to want to have a fun time just for pure paranormal romance vibes. I don't even know if this classifies as young adult. I think it's more new adult. I don't actually know the category of this, but what I do know is that I think it's giving me new adult vibes, and it's definitely more of a paranormal rather than a fantasy from what I know. It has to do with monsters, and I barely know anything about the plot, but you know what? I was just intrigued by reading the synopsis. I was like, if I ever really need a guilty pleasure read, I'm gonna start reading the Flirting with Monsters series. And yes, I have to talk about the Hades and Persephone series by Scarlett Sinclair. I'm holding up A Touch of Ruin, but pretty much every book after the first book I still have on my TBR. I still haven't read A Game of Fate yet. I ordered the special bookish box edition of the first two books, which is really cool. I'm really excited to receive them because, oh my goodness, I really love the artist. A Touch of Ruin and the rest of the series, very much on my TBR. I'm here for it. Similar to the Flirting with Monsters situation, this is more of a guilty pleasure read. I do enjoy the series for the plot, but there's more guilty pleasure in it. That being said, I do want more wholesomeness in this series. I'm hoping we get more wholesome moments and a bit more development in the series. I also really like the modernization of Hades and Persephone myth. I just really hope that is more explored in the future, but if it's not, okay, then it's just gonna be a guilty pleasure read, period. Speaking of Hades and Persephone, I've got to talk about another retelling, and that, my friends, is A Deal with the Elf King from Elise Kovar. This belongs in the Married to Magic series, which I think is going to be a companion series, and pretty much anything by Elise Kovar I want to read. I've brought this one up here because this is probably the most popular one at the moment on BookTube. The Trial of Sorcerers as well. That one I'm really looking forward to. The Alchemist of Loom, I'm really looking forward to. Vortex of Visions, which is the spin-off series to Air Awakens. And you know what? I'm actually considering rereading Air Awakens because I want to kind of remember everything before I go into the Vortex of Visions series. This being said, I really did enjoy Air Awakens. So I'm pretty much auto-buying anything by Elise Kovar at this point. And I do have to bring up one last author who has done really successfully. I don't know if they were picked up by a publisher or not overseas, but what I do know is that at least here they are independently published. This being said, this one series is kind of independently published as opposed to some of their other series, and the series that I'm talking about right now is the Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Arment. The book that I have to talk about that is on my TBR is A Shadow in the Embers book in the Flesh and Fire series, which is a spin-off to Blood and Ash, and I need this. I need this probably more than I need oxygen. I don't know. And pretty much the rest of the series, really excited to get into it. But this book series just proves, and some of these other book series also just prove, you do not have to be a traditionally published author, even though Jennifer L. Arment has been traditionally published before. You do not have to have a traditionally published series for it to do well. This entire series on my TBR, I will keep reading these books probably till the end of time, but you know what? I don't even know if it's going to continue on for that long, but it is definitely one of my faves. I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to enjoy it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias. I'm at gswizzelbooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also at Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Thought that I would have, and I flipped it in a double.